So I am Michelle Rivard. I am from Dow. It's Dow now. So, I mean, obviously a couple years ago it was Dow Chemical. We've gone through quite a few changes. So who am I? Well, I tell everybody I am a wife, I am a mother. I have two kids. They're 21 and 13. So one is at a college and into her career. The other one is in 8th grade. My parents are originally from Michigan. My dad was Air Force, so I did not live in Michigan growing up. I moved around a lot, and the way the military works is you have dual residency in your home state and wherever you are stationed. And CMU at the time, Central Michigan University, gave me the best deal, and so I went there because I got a 3-quarter ride. So that's how I ended up back into Michigan, and when my dad retired, they followed me back here. So I am a Midland ACS member. I'm actually the treasurer. I am the co-chair for outreach. I'm highly involved in the Mid-Michigan Technician Group, which is the technologist group. Obviously, Dow has their own internal technologist group. So, and I tell everybody I'm always a student because I'm always learning. So, it's just a little background about me. So I have a passion for volunteering. This is a bunch of pictures of my kids. I had a bunch of stuff that I always drag them to, my poor kids. Neither one of them I don't think are going to end up in science, but I drag them to a lot of science-based stuff, so they are very well-rounded in knowing what is out there. I always tell everybody the wrong application is how I started my career at Dow. So I've been there 22 years and counting. When I was a junior at Central, my dad said, hey, I hear Dow Corning is hiring. Why don't you go down and try to get a co-op application? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So I went down, I asked for an application. I filled it out, sent it off. I got a thing saying, congratulations, you've been selected to go take the exam at Delta. I went down, I took the exam at Delta. I got another congratulations letter saying, you passed the exam, you're now in a pool for interviewing. I got another letter saying, come this date for a group interview. I went to a group interview. And then I got another letter saying, congratulations, you passed that group interview. You're now in a pool for another interview. And then I got a thing saying, hey, come out to Hemlock Semiconductor for an interview. So I went to what I thought was an interview, and it actually ended up being a offer for a full-time position as a chemical operator. So through this whole thing, I didn't even know that I was applying for a full-time job. I just thought I was going through the motions, you know? So I was like, what do I say, right? I'm gonna say no. So I didn't. I decided to say yes. And I will have to say I probably broke my parents' heart by quitting school and starting my career with Hemlock Semiconductor as a chemical operator. I worked there for 7 years, and I can tell you that by my 7th year, I hated my job. So I found it very boring. It didn't challenge me, you know, mentally whatsoever. Because I was young and new, you were always being switched from one shift to another. I never knew what shift I was going to be on. They told me when I was in my interview that the way it worked is if you work Christmas this year, you won't work Christmas next year. That's true if you stay on the same thing. But because my shifts were always changing, I never knew what I was going to do. I think I worked the first 3 Christmas at HSC. Not a big deal. Hey, you get double time, right? I mean, I was making good money, guys. I have no complaints. So by this time, I had started a family, and I was a single parent. So I was like, okay, well, I make way too much money to just quit my job. Luckily, I worked with some really, really good people that said, hey, Michelle, you know, you're smart. You should go back to school and finish your degree. You've already got 2.5 years. You know, Dow Corning will pay for it. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. So I talked to my boss, and sure enough, he's like, yes. He goes, if you want to go back to school, we'll pay for it. So when I went the first time, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I was in a program where biology was my major and chemistry was my minor. So when I went back, I thought, well, I'm working for a chemical company. It makes more sense for me to get a chemistry degree and to get a minor in biology. So I flopped it. After a few years, one of my professors said, wow, Michelle, you have so many biology. You know, we have a program that we just rolled out that is a biochem degree. He goes, you should check it out. It might shave some years off. And so I did, and I looked at it and I was like, wow, you know what, you're right. If I take this, if I switch my degree, I will save myself like a year and a half. Because I'm taking 1 or 2 classes every year. I always tell everybody, do it the first time. Don't work a full-time job and try to go to school, because it takes you so much longer. I feel like I've been in school forever. So eventually I did graduate. I graduated in 2016, 3 years ago, guys. I've had a career for 22 years. So, and Dow Corning paid for it all. So I was very lucky in that. Why I was going to school, one of the other things that the guys were saying is like, you need to get out of here. You need to get out of the plant life. You should go to corporate or something like that. So I started looking at jobs, and one of the jobs that I applied for was what was called an analytical technologist job. I had no clue what it was. I looked at the sign up thing and read it all. I did a little research to see what the difference was between siloxanes and silenes and stuff like that, because I had no idea. At that point, I hadn't taken organic, so I hadn't even seen a GC. I knew what it was because I looked it up. I went through the interview process, and surprisingly, I got offered the job. And so I took it. And it was nice because it took me from being day shift, swing shift, and like I said, constantly switching shifts. Every year they tried to roll out a different thing depending on if production was up, production was down, you never knew, to a regular Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 job. And by this time I had 2 kids. Yay! So I loved it. So I started out as doing gas chromatography and BET. So I added mass spectrometry in the last 3 years. So gas chromatography, if anybody's never seen what it is, you see the CSI things where they push the thing and it tells you, oh, look, it's Chanel channel number whatever. That doesn't work that way. So gas chromatography separates out, it's an analytical technique that separates out liquid components by volatilizing it. And so you can quantitate what's in there. Mass spectrometry uses electrical and magnetic to look at the ions, and so it gives you a fingerprint. So you can actually identify those components, because GC, you can only do it by retention time if you have standards. So if you know that it's coming out at that same time, you can say, oh yes, this is methanol. Oh yes, this is ethanol. Where mass spec helps you to say, yes, it's absolutely methanol. Yes, it's absolutely ethanol, and stuff like that. BET is a surface area analysis. So the way this worked is one day my boss said, hey, we need you to run the sample once a month for an external customer on, BT, the BT&I, BET. And I was like, okay, sure, I'm new, I'll do it. You're new, you're not gonna say no to a lot of stuff. Over the years, I became the expert in both these. So I tell everybody that as part of your career, you should have, even as students, you should have what I call an elevator pitch, okay? So a couple years ago, I made up these trading cards for a career event that I had where we were working with obviously students, more like 8th and 9th graders and stuff like that. And so as you can see in here, my job description, what I tell people when I give my elevator speech is that I'm kind of like the CSI or police of Dow's R&D. So I either help solve a problem or ensure compliance utilizing analytical techniques and equipment. And I also put keys to success and recommended middle and high school students. Like I said, these were geared towards kids. But I always tell even students that they should have some kind of elevator speech. So you never know when you're going to be in an elevator or somewhere and you run into somebody and you want to talk about, what do you see yourself doing? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? Who are you? Why are you doing this? So it's always the who, what, and how. And more recently, I tell people you should add a mission statement. So a few years ago, well, I guess it was last year. This is 2019, right? Last year, I won the American Chemical Society National Chemical Technician Award, okay? And in it, Dow wrote that, I have become a silicone materials measurement science expert, mastering analytical characterizing techniques, including gas chromatography and BET. Now, I will tell you that up until that point, if you had asked me if I was an expert in anything, I probably would have told you no, that I wasn't. But I'm like, well, Dow says I am, so I must be. I'm like, cool, I'm an expert now. So I do tell people that you should add a mission statement. And so my mission statement is, I like to think that my love of chemistry is infectious and that nothing brings me greater joy than translating that passion into real impact both at Dow and the local community. So for me, being a chemist is not just a day job. When I'm not in the lab, I love to be an advocate for chemical technology to the next generation. That's you guys. You are the next generation. So before I get into exactly what a technologist does at Dow, I kind of like to get a feel of what my audience is like. So how many people are here just to get like the chemical tech or the environmental tech degree? That's all you're planning to do, and you're hoping to either get into Dow, DuPont, or one of the local places. So the majority of you? Anybody else just using this as a springboard to get your bachelor's degree in something? Not everybody raised their hand. So, okay, one person over here, she's saying she's thinking about it. All right, what's the rest of you guys doing?
I think some of them might be in wastewater, waste treatment.
Okay, well, sorry. I forgot wastewater, waste treatment. So the tech classes. So is everybody the tech class? Everybody plans on only getting the 2-year degree? And one maybe? Okay. All right, that's fine.
No, that's good.
Well, yeah, that's great because that's great for your program here.
We've seen already, why that's important.
It is. It's very important. And we're always hiring. So it's a good thing. Delta has a very good system here. And I actually did take classes at Delta. I don't know if you noticed that on the little slide that said me. I had Delta there. So Dr. Baker was my organic teacher. Why are you laughing?
That's okay. You're the expert now.
I'm the expert now. So at Dow, I says globally in Dow, 3.7% are PhDs in Dow, okay? And of that 3.7%, 73% of those PhDs reside here in Midland. So these stats might be a little off now. So with the rollout. And then 25% of the workforce here in Midland are R&D technologists, okay? And up until probably this week or last week, they had what I would say 4 main job ladders. There was the tech ladder, the admin, and then what they call the FSFL, which is the PhD chemists and scientists, and then global leaders. So, but now Dow has just rolled out this brand new thing where we are now in grades, and they're grades 1 through 12. So I laugh because it's kind of like a pH meter. So we sit in grades, and so there's no longer this where it used to be like kind of like separate, where here was the technologists and here were the FSL. So now we're all on one ladder, with the idea being that we're one big happy family. So.
Are you basic or acidic?
I am very basic. I will tell you that I'm a grade 3 right now. So. And I think my understanding is most people will sit in a grade 4 or 5 for their career. So, but again, that encompasses everything. So all the way to our CEO. So I'm assuming he's a level 14, but I guess I don't know that. So some of these slides are going to be a little off because we're just getting to learn this new grading system. We only just got our grades. So, and we don't even, my manager doesn't even know what my grade means, let alone me. I have no idea. This is the website of Dow. So like if you're looking for a Dow job, whether it's a co-op or if it's just, to get in as a technologist, a summer internship, all of them are posted on this Dow website. So if you go to careers@dow.com, They are all listed there, and there's beautiful filters where you can go through and you can look at just the US jobs, and then go down to if you want to look at the operators jobs or whatever, or if you want to look at it all. If you want to look at Europe, I don't know, maybe you want to go to Europe and be a tech. I have no idea. So, but I can tell you that they're all posted on here. So I always tell everybody there's jobs now. So if you're looking for a co-op job, there's jobs out there. It's a good time to look.
I just applied today.
There you go, see?
But
Good
this
luck.
is old. It doesn't look like that anymore.
No, it probably doesn't look like that. The pictures probably changed.
They kicked everyone out of their system and I had to reapply.
Yes. So, yep, yes. And that's the whole HR rollout thing. So, yeah, I think they closed all the jobs and then had to start reposting them again because of this whole HR switchover. So, I tell everybody you have to be flexible. If anything I've learned in the last 3 years, flexibility is key to success of a career. So this is a typical production operating, manufacturing, engineering, responsibility, and qualification. So I don't want to read, completely this thing because I'm assuming, can you guys see that? It looks a little blurry to me. You guys can see that okay? Okay. So, obviously problem-solving skills, time management, being able to work in team environments, having strong work ethics, your typical stuff. One thing that I did highlight on here is that for an operator, they expect you to have a high school diploma or equivalent. And obviously for Michigan operations, they expect you to have the degree through here. So I think they still make exceptions for people that have military experience. This is like a typical R&D technologist job posting. Again, they want you to have excellent safety records. They want you to have strong written and verbal skills. Good interpersonal skills are required. They want you to demonstrate leadership skills, stuff like that. Be self-starters. And there are a lot of people that start out as operator like me and move into technologist jobs. So starting at the bottom of the ladder, there's nothing wrong with that. The education, a minimum of a high school diploma or GED, you'll see that they require you to either have an associate's degree, and they even say that they prefer to have a bachelor's degree or higher. So people that are on the technologists, that are technologists have anywhere from a 2-year degree to a master's degree. So it just depends on how you got hired in and your skill level. And I don't know how it's going to work on the new one system, because before, unless you had a PhD, you could not switch over to the FSFL. So we had some, obviously, people that were grandfathered in that were on the professional ladder, as we called it, that were Dow Corning, but I don't know how that's going to look now because I have not seen the new ladder. So I'm even interested to see, has that glass ceilings lifted? I don't know. This kind of gives you an idea of all the different tech roles. So they used to say that co-ops, interns, and contracting technicians were not considered techs. I'm assuming that they're still going to be not techs, that they'll be called something else. Technicians are usually operators. Process technicians, engineering technicians, process technologists, project technologists, engineering, and R&D technologists. And that is what I am, as an R&D technologist. So we look at the job responsibilities as a chemical operator. You guys are usually working on big scale stuff. So you keep production work plants running safely. You have shift work, you have overtime. You're part of a team. You usually have shift partners. If your shift partner doesn't show up on time, you get to stay. Your technical involvement is usually less. And then it flops when you become like a technologist. Your technical involvement usually increases while your scale gets smaller. So an R&D technologist, you have project input, ideas, suggestions. You operate different kinds of equipment. I'm doing GC, gas chromatography, BET. People are synthesizing stuff. They're using high throughput tools, and there's all kinds of stuff. So like I said, I am an R&D technologist in the analytical science group. So a little bit of background on how Dow technologists have evolved over the year. So in the 1940s and 80s, lab technicians were bargained hourly employees. So technicians were assigned to like one researcher and received hands-on training only, and most only had a high school diploma. And then in the late 1970s, like around 1979, there was a decision made that R&D needed lab technicians with science education and backgrounds. So in the 80s and 90s, R&D started hiring technologists that were distinguished from hourly lab technicians. And they usually had like a 2-year degree, associate's degree in chemistry or chemical technology, usually from a local community college. So several of them are listed up here because there was like the Milwaukee Technical College, Ferris State, Big Rapids, which is down in Big Rapids, and then obviously Delta College, Mid-Michigan Community College, and Harrison, and a few others. And then in 1990 to present, the majority of the new technologists hired have a bachelor's degree in science-related fields. So either chemistry, biology, physics, biochem. Some of them even have mathematics degree, but they usually have a 4-year degree. And technologists are more independent with experience. They work with several researchers, and they are on multiple projects. So for me, I have a little more projects than most technologists, only because I am in analytical, and so I juggle because I'm only a small pie of a lot of projects. So work areas. So areas that you find technologists in Dow. So we're research assistants in laboratories, so we're doing the hands-on analytical part or research part in the labs. We're doing pilot plants or production plants, working with chemical engineers. Quality control testing compounds for compliance with standards and specifications. We're in technical service and development area, responding to customer needs. Dow's commitment to R&D technologists. So Dow, they give a lot back to technologists. They give us classes, and we have, like I said, we have our own, it's called the Midland R&D Technologist Group. And you have to be a technologist to be in the group. You cannot be a contractor, and you cannot be a I'm drawing a blank now. Co-op, thank you. So it is only for technologists. And in that technologist, they bring developments and stuff like that. They value technologists as a career choice with fully developed career paths. So we have career paths. If you worked at Dow, they actually have a career path that you can look at where they highlight some high up technologists, and you can see their career path of how they got to where they are today, to give you an idea of what you need to do to go up the ladder. Obviously, they support us in continuing our education. I know that they're still supporting people going back to school. Dow didn't pay for my job. Dow Corning did, but that's only because I finished before Dow bought us out. But I know other people that were on it finished through Dow. So I know that Dow still will pay for people to go back to school and finish degrees or start, get master degrees. I know other people have gone back and gotten PhDs. So they strive to increase technologist satisfaction and contribution through job enrichment and enhancements. How to get hired as a technologist? I always tell everybody college co-ops are great opportunities. It's your foot in the door. So if you're, like I said, I know you said you just applied for one. There's job openings out there. And if this is truly what you want to do and you want to try to get in there, then you should be looking for co-op jobs if your time allows it. I know if everybody's a full-time student, part-time student, already have a career that they're trying to go back to school, but college co-oping or even summer internship is a great opportunity to get your foot in the door, because then you start networking with people, you start learning things, and these are skills that you can actually take back and put on your resume that makes you look good when you go to apply for a job. So another way that people are hired through are obviously contracting. So we have a lot of technologists that are contractors through Kelly Services. I think there's another service too. What is the other one? Do you remember? Is it not anymore? Is it just Kelly now? Okay. There's been so much turnover in the last 2 years, it's hard to keep track. So Kelly Services is another opportunity where you come in as a contractor and you work, and because again, you're making those connections, you're learning those skills, that's a great stepping stone to actually get into Dow or any other company. So, and then they do outside hires too, where you just go in, like I showed you at the, the careers at dow.com, and you can apply. So there's different types of job roles that are available for R&D technologists. Obviously, again, I'm an analytical technologist. There's reactor technologist, which is engineering based. There's synthesis technologist, which is heavily chemistry based. So I have a lot of really good, close technologist friends that are actual synthesis technologists. I give them kudos. I like my analytical stuff. There's EHS, which is the environmental health and safety. There's IT technologists, there's the TS and D technologists, and there's many, many, many more technologist roles within Dow. As your career develops, you become more independent. You usually take on leadership responsibilities, either of equipment or lab oversight, or sometimes even of other technologists. You become subject matter experts. So I showed you that slide before that told you I'm a subject matter expert. I never knew that. You interface with PhD chemists and engineers. Again, most have associate or a Bachelor of Science degree, usually a non-engineering degree. These are different roles. So what we were calling the FSFL, the PhD job description. So they're usually the innovating new technologies. They have strong understanding of technical areas. They participate across teams and functions. Their organizational technical expertise. And they communicate results and progress with strong verbal and writing abilities. And then if you look at the difference between them and tech jobs, we tend to do laboratory setups, run the equipment, we troubleshoot, we operate, we maintain those equipment, we generate data, we maintain electronic databases and document the results. We should have an understanding of laboratory skills. We usually have strong mechanical skills. We tend to work independently, and we have the ability to multitask and working on multiple projects at once. And obviously you need to have a good ability to learn, because almost everything that a technologist learns is on the job. So we always say this is the unspoken understanding of technicians' knowledge. So like when you guys graduate, most people think that everything falls into this little bubble, and that the PhD people fall outside it and they know everything that you know plus a whole lot more. In reality, this is what we are, because we know a lot of how to set up equipment, how to run them, how to maintain them and stuff like that. They don't always know that stuff. So yes, they know a lot of the stuff that we know, but not all of it, and they do know a lot more than we do. And then as your development increases, you start kind of overlapping and building your knowledge base. So again, you're always a student. You'll be a student for the rest of your life. This is again how you develop. So at the beginning, you're learning, you're operating a reactor, you're learning how to run a GC, you're following a procedure. As you go along in your degree, you begin applying it, you're building a reactor, you're servicing a GC, you're authorizing procedures. And then when you start leveraging, where you become a technologist leader, you're leading, you're teaching others how to build a reactor, you're recommending GC options, you're reviewing procedures. So again, like I said, on the job, 70% of what you're going to learn is going to be on the job. So we go to school to get the basis and to learn the basics. And then when you get in there, learn how to apply that. And what you learn, you're going to learn a lot, especially in the first couple of years of any new job. So these are attributes of a Dow R&D technologist. So we have broad research experience. We tend to work on multiple projects. You've heard me say that lots of times, right? Both short-term and long-term. Therefore, we have to balance several priorities at one time. We network with a vast variety of R&D technologists. More experienced technologists have an immense variety of experience and knowledge. So the experienced technologists should be independent in the lab. An experienced technologist might or should have a better method. So we're always improving things. If you see something and you know how to improve it, you offer that. We have strong observation skills. We're team players. We work hard with a multitude of research projects. We're, again, often experts with internal processings. So there's sample shipping, lab supply procurement, MOC. So that's a method of, method of change. So there's different things. There's software application, database management, and a multitude of other specific process. So you become experts in some of these little things that you are constantly rolling out and stuff. A lot of safety things. We take on a lot of the safety aspects, bringing that into our groups and stuff like that. So like when you have to write a work permit and stuff like that, hot work, usually technologists are the ones that are doing that. Again, we have a lot of development opportunities. So there's both training online and in the classroom through Dow. So there's employee development. We have managing conflicts, project leadership, many developing training courses. We call it the Dow Diamond Learning Center. You can go through, and there's a lot of classes for technologists that we can take. Again, I had talked about how they have career galleries, so we can see the path that some of the technologists that have been very successful have taken. There's role descriptions out there so that, it's like, I don't like my job, but maybe I'll like something else. So you can go and you can look at all the different roles, and maybe something is a better fit. And you can talk to your manager and say, hey, I'm kind of interested in this job over here. What do I need to do to, move over there and do that? Again, like I said, we have career opportunities. There's a lot of internal postings, so there's a lot of people that are moving what we call lateral moves. So you're not moving up, you're just changing jobs within a system. We have mentoring programs. We have a lot of networking organization. Like I said, Dow has their own MRDTG. We have also what's called the Mid-Michigan Technician Group, MMTG. And I don't know if you guys are all first years. Are you guys all first year? Is this your first year? How many people are second year? A couple? Okay. So maybe a few of you were at our, I think we brought a bunch of Delta students in to tour the Central Campus. So did anybody take that tour? Nobody? No? Okay.
Okay, we should make it available.
As I say, it'll be available again. Dr. Baker and I will be talking about it because we try to bring you guys in every year. So where you get to actually tour and people talk about their career, not just me. So you get a little overview of everything that's done in R&D on Central Campus. And when I say Central Campus, that's the Auburn campus, which used to be the corporate site of Dow Corning.
Yeah, there was also two co-ops, right? An opportunity on that as well.
Yep, when we were there, we had some guy come in and say, can I talk to your group for a minute? And he had two co-op opportunities that he wrote up on the board because they were desperately looking for co-ops. So we do other stuff with Delta too, because I know like for National Chemistry Week, we do program in a box. So be on the lookout on that. Free pizza. Can't go wrong with that, right? So external to Dow is the American Chemical Society. So if you are ever interested in what does this kind of scientist do, ACS Chemist Career Galleries is a great resource for that. There's a live person that actually talks about their career there. So these are like the current trends and technologists for core R&D. So that's R&D is research and development. Project goals align to multiple projects. So you have to, deliver timelines. Can be challenging to balance or prioritize tasks and responsibilities. So you have to learn how to do that. Sometimes if you have, 5 people pulling you all at once, you have to learn to decide who gets your attention at that moment. And sometimes that even has to be, you have to pull into your boss and say, look, I have all this, which one do I need to do first? So owning equipment, safety responsibilities, we're the go-to experts, growing process related to R&D operations, so like sample shipping, work requests, issuing SWPs, which is a safety thing. And then we do the online ordering and accounting. Again, development skills, so safety programs, authorized procedures. We have knowledge of internal safety requirements, safety responsibilities for contract trades, and more. We're always learning new techniques, increasing responsibility. So sometimes we're training others. We're owning the research space. So a lot of times technologists own the research space in a room, and they are responsible for taking care of that. So when we do safety inspection, it's the technologists that go to that safety inspection and look, see, did they fail in any safety inspection? If they did, they have to address it. So we're communicating expertise. We're always presenting skills. This is a presentation, right? So I have to use my presentation skills to present to you guys. I have to do that when I work on projects, when I have to present. So my advice for students and new hires, I tell people you need to learn to sell yourself. I always tell women that we are really bad about this, about selling ourselves. I don't know why, but we are. I don't know if it's the way we're raised, but women tend to be bad about selling yourself. So I don't know if it's because we don't want to boast, like, look what I did. But we need to say, look what I did. Give yourself a pat on the back. You guys do great. So elevator speech, if you don't have one, you should go home tonight, think about it. Come up with an elevator speech. The who, what, how, and like I said, now people are saying add a mission statement in it. Resume and references. If you do co-op, you should get a reference before you leave that job so that you're not scrambling later on trying to remember who was that person I worked with and what was their email. Ask for, a reference then and there before you leave. Resumes. Nothing's worse than having misspelled or grammar inappropriate or just things wrong in your resume, because most people are just going to kind of throw it in the trash, especially nowadays. Delta has a wonderful program here where you can go down and you can do mock interview, and they'll look at your resume and they'll go through it. Has anybody used that at all yet? No?
Well, Marty's going to come in and talk about that.
All right, good. Use it. I highly, highly suggest that you use it. You want to stand out. I tell people to focus on expanding your knowledge. So you've heard me say co-op, internships. Those are the foot in the door. That's how you get to know people. People say all the time that sometimes it's who you know versus what you know. And it is. If you have 2 great candidates and you know this person but you don't know this person, and you know this person and you like that person, they work well, that person's more likely to get the job than the unknown factor. We're comfort people. So new on the job experiences. Don't be afraid to ask for tasks. You know, training and education, obviously, like I've always said, you know, continue your education. You're always a student. Job shadowing, networking. Networking is huge. People don't realize sometimes just how big networking can be. So networking is huge. If you don't have a huge network, try to get that network. If you're interested in a job, doing something, you should be looking for somebody that does that job now so that you can ask them questions. You can job shadow it. Because I can tell you there's nothing worse than having a job that you hate. I did it for 7 years. It's very hard to get up in the morning. It's very hard to go to your job when you hate it. So I love my job now. I don't have a problem getting up. I don't have a problem going to work. Yeah, we all have our bad days, yes. Not every day's, you know, rainbows and sunshines, right, Dave?
You didn't go to everything.
But I do. I love my job. I love what I do. It's challenging, and that's what I want. I want something that's challenging. If you're not a person that wants something challenging, great. You know, everybody's different. But you need to find that job because, like I said, there's nothing worse having a job that you hate. And then you'll see that I highlighted this because I added this year, flexible. So being flexible is huge. The last 3 years with this whole Dow buying out Corning so that there was no Dow Corning, and then us merging with DuPont, and then us splitting apart into 3 different companies has taught me nothing but to be flexible. I have seen people that were not flexible that just have fallen apart in the last 3 years, and they're no longer here. Whether it's because they upped and quit because they couldn't handle the stress of what was going on, or because they were let go. But being flexible is huge. So, and I had somebody ask me once, you know, how was I flexible? You know, how did I? And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's because I was a military kid and I'm used to having to move every 3 to 4 years. So meeting new people, learning, you know, new environments and stuff like that, I'm kind of used to. So I just kind of went the flow. I didn't fight it. That's the biggest thing is when people come in and they want to change things, there's nothing worse than fighting that change. So I'm not saying that you have to be, you know, on the soapbox saying me first. Yes.
So being flexible, that means like changing what the environment you're working in as well as like tasks they changed?
Both. So being willing to be flexible in the environment that you're working with, because I know a lot of people that, you know, for whatever reason, groups were just cut. And so people were moved around and they had to go to different jobs. So I know people that, because now that we're Dow, analytical is pretty much in 2 buildings. So there's DC4 and then there's 1897, which is in MyOps West. Okay, so that's on the west side of Saginaw Road. And then MyOps East is obviously on the east side of Saginaw Road. So that's Heritage Dow Corning, as we call it, and the other one is Heritage Dow. So there's people that had to move from DC4 over to MyOps West because their technique went there, because DuPont took the equipment that was in our building. So, and you know, if you've been sitting in an office for 20-some years, do you want to move? Would you want to move, Dave? If they told you that you had to move your office from where it is now and move it over?
I will be. I'm very flexible on certain things. So yes, it would not be a problem. The frustration will be coming back to play to the classes on this side of the building. So yes, it's an upheaval and there'll be a lot of recycling and trash, obviously.
Yeah, it's time for cleanup, right?
I mean, change.
Yes.
That is critical.
Yes. So we had that where people were moving from one building had to move to another building, and you know, some people didn't like that. So, and their whole role could have changed. I know people that are, you know, doing well. What was it Jeff said? He's a wet bench chemist now.
Right. Your supervisor changes. That changes a lot.
Yeah. So, and Margot will tell you she's had more supervisors than years that she's been at Dow. So being flexible, you have to do that. You have to learn, you know, I had a new boss. I got a new boss. I had 2 new bosses in that whole time period. So the one boss I knew, but she wasn't my boss before. But the other boss was totally new to me, you know. So you're always having to be flexible. So just kind of, I call it rolling with a roll. I don't worry about stuff. I don't let things worry me too much. I'm not going to worry about spilled milk when it hasn't spilled yet. So I know people were very scared about losing their jobs, and that affected their performance and the way they worked and stuff. And I know some of that you can't control, it's your personality or whatever, but there are things that you can do to relieve that stress to, you know, be able to continue doing your job without falling apart. So I tell everybody, ask questions about the task and projects you're working on. Why am I doing this? How does this work? Because not only should you, you know, be able to run it, you should also understand the basis of how it works. Because then if something's not running correctly, you can go, I don't think this is running correctly, if you know the basics of how it works. And then you should ask, you know, what should I be looking for? What should I be observing? And how can I be more efficient at this? And don't be afraid to ask for challenges with new or additional tasks. And then obviously learn to be independent.
And just be flexible. I mean, the time, sometimes you realize that sometimes the equipment doesn't work if you don't work 9 to 5. I work, say, 12:30 to 8 o'clock at night. This is what's necessary.
You do have to be flexible with that. Operators are different. Operators do get overtime, but as a technologist, we do not tend to get overtime. They don't authorize it. So I have what I call flex time all the time. So if I had to stay over, say like if I was running something tonight and I had some things that went down and I had to, you know, work on it and stuff, and it's 6 o'clock before I left, then the next day I just either come in an hour later or leave an hour early, because they're not going to pay me overtime. That's just the way it works. So you do have to be flexible with your time and stuff like that. And I know that some technologists, you know, had problems with that. They couldn't be, or didn't want to be flexible, or didn't know that they were supposed to be flexible.
But I remember it's a give and take. If you're taking time off, you also donate your time. But that might be good. Donating a lot of time in January, February might be beneficial. You want to go out, or take some time off in August when the weather's a little better.
Yeah, I have a workstation at home, so I dial in from home a lot of times. There's a lot of times where I'll just work from home, and my boss allows that because she knows that I'm flexible enough that if I have to be at work for longer than I need to be, I will. So, any questions? This is definitely the time for questions.
I'm just like curious in your position specifically. So you walk into work, what's the first thing you feel you have to do to get your day started?
She's got a badge to get in. We can't get in.
Yeah, I got a badge in. No, I read my emails. So that's the first thing I do is I log in and I read my emails. Because you'll be surprised how many people send you emails at 2 a.m. or 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. or whatever. So Mondays I tend to deal with a lot of emails, especially because I work what's called a compressed work week. So I work 9 hours Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday I work 8 hours. The following work again, Monday through Thursday I work 9 hours, and then that Friday I have off. And I have my work week set up with that because I do science coaching in the schools through ACS. So I have my work schedule set up for that. So last Friday was my CWW, so I've been out of the office since Thursday. And yes, I will tell you that I have my emails on here, so I'm constantly plugged in, and in fact, Victoria just emailed me a little while ago. I'll look at it and I'll be like, that's not important, I'm not gonna worry about it. So I will look to see if there's something important, and if there is something important, I'll answer it on my time off and stuff like that. But usually Monday morning, the first thing I do is I will look at my email, even tomorrow.
Every day. Dealing mainly with things in Midland, things aren't coming from Houston or Pennsylvania.
For me?
For you.
Say that again?
Things, materials and analysis aren't coming necessarily from Houston or Pennsylvania. saying that they're all focused here in Finland?
Yeah, most of my stuff's here in Midland. So, but that's because I support DPS, which is the Dow Performance Silicone, and the silicones is based here. Now, if I was, not DPS and doing something else, then yeah, maybe some of that stuff would be coming from Texas or somewhere else. You have another question? Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I guess I was
Okay.
just trying to ask, like, if your work is more office or
Oh.
like lab.
Okay,
That's
it's
what I'm
both.
trying to get, okay.
So like I said, the first thing I do is I look at my email. I know we kind of got off track, so.
What's your percentage then?
It depends. It really does. It depends. I would say half and half, if not maybe more lab than office. So like today, I ran one sample in the lab, and the rest of the time I was answering emails, writing up reports and stuff like that. But then there's other days that I spend all 9 hours in the lab and I don't look at my emails at all. And so then I have to deal with it next day. So I do a lot of analytical work in the lab, and then I also have to write up reports, because with my job, I mean, obviously, if he's giving me, hey, can you run this by GC? I need to know how much silicones are in this, blah, 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 then I need to let him know. So I have to write up a report that I send to him and say, here is your, results. So now other technologists that are working in other areas, they don't have to write up as many reports. Depends. They write up what's called TIS reports, which are technical reports for their whole project. But that's usually when the project is done and wrapped up.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? All right, I will tell you that if you haven't already looked in here, you'll see that there's these fancy flyers that have all the different Dow jobs in there. My business card's in here, and so is the CTA, which is the Committee on Technician Affairs on the ACS level. And then there's an application for the Mid-Michigan Technician Group. So we always offer this because we do work with students, because this is a professional group. It does cost to be a member, although we always waive it to people the first time when I come into a class, or if you come over for your lab tour and stuff like that, because I don't know if anybody looked at it, but the cost is $2 a year. It's so expensive. Oh my goodness. And if you even just go to the Christmas party, which is gives you a free meal, I think it's well worth your $2. But we offer networking events, we offer social events. There's I think we've done team building stuff, skill building stuff, because I always tell everybody you need to work on your soft skills. That's one of the things that sometimes school doesn't necessarily round you about, is working on your soft skills. So soft skills is huge. It's very important.
I think there was a meeting out of the brewery in Mount Pleasant next month too.
Yes, there is. Well,
That one was already, so this one's the Tri-City Brewery. So yeah, we're going to the Tri-City Brewery, talking about how regional beers, what influences regional beers.
Correct.
Who wouldn't like that? That's fun.
But type in MMTG and see those kids.
Thank you, Michelle.
I know everybody's.